Over the years, I've called my mother and told her that I'm making one thing or baking another. And my mother would normally say, "Oh, that sounds great. Ooh, I wish you could send me some." But today, when I called my mom to tell her what I was gonna make for dinner this evening and do a video, her reaction was not much to my surprise, to be quite honest with you. She just simply said, "What? What? You're making what?" And mother, I think my mom knows me all too well, and I say that because, the recipe I'm making tonight takes me back decades now to when I was a little kid. And growing up, I've got the fondest of memories. I had just a wonderful childhood. I grew up in a horseshoe shaped neighborhood. Horseshoe meaning that right off of the main boulevard there was my street, which was 204, and then 203 was right next door, and the two streets were joined like in the shape of a horseshoe, and a very nice neighborhood. Both streets had homes of large families, and there were no shortage of little kids around, and just the most wonderful of memories growing up, playing baseball and basketball and fishing down at the beach, and just sitting on the front porch and sharing stories late into the night, or flooding our front yards in anticipation of going fishing the next morning so we could go out at night and with our flashlights and catch big night crawlers that would come out of the ground after we soaked the ground. But a lot of good memories. But there's one memory that wasn't necessarily the best. And that would be when I would be walking home from school, and I'd be walking down Lakeshore Boulevard there in Euclid, Ohio. And just as I'd round the corner to go down the street, every now and then, probably at least once a month, I would smell it. It was you couldn't mistake the smell. And when I smelled what was coming out of the kitchen where I knew my mom was cooking, boy, I would make a beeline. I'd cut through the Liptax backyard over from 204 over to 203, and I would make a beeline for my friend's house, the Eric at the Wuchter family. And I'd walk into the kitchen. I could just walk in unannounced over at the Wuchters. I was one of the family. And I'd walk in and I'd say, "What's for dinner?" And they'd say, "Oh, your mom's making stuffed bell peppers again tonight." And I'd say, "Yeah, she's making stuffed bell peppers." I hated stuffed bell peppers. I couldn't stand them. I would have to sit at the dinner until well about bedtime before I could be given permission to get up, just staring at that bell pepper on the counter. But anyway, without much further ado, that's what I'm going to make today. I've got a recipe. It's a rather good recipe. It's from this the Men's Health Big Book of Food and Nutrition, and it's in the back of the book. It's got 100 of the healthiest meals on the planet. And tonight we're going to make quinoa stuffed bell peppers. Quinoa. I didn't learn what the heck quinoa was until several years ago. But quinoa is probably one of the healthiest grains you could ever eat. And they give you a little information about all the different foods that you can eat in this book. Quinoa, the South American grain quinoa, has about twice as much protein as brown rice. And its protein consists of a complete set of branched chain and essential amino acids, making it a tissue and muscle building powerhouse. All that protein and fiber, in conjunction with a handful of healthy fats and comparatively small dose of carbohydrates, helps ensure a low impact on your blood sugar. Quinoa's soft and nutty taste is easy to handle even for picky eaters, and it cooks just like rice, ready in about 15 minutes. So that's what we're making tonight. We're going to make quinoa stuffed bell peppers. I don't know how well you can see that picture or not, but you'll see my end product here in not too long. So let's get started. And as I always do, I'll share with you the ingredients that I've laid out on the kitchen table here. All right, let's go take a look at the ingredients. Here you would have the ingredients for the quinoa stuffed bell peppers. And I'll just go through these. It calls for 1/3 of a cup of almonds slivered. And I didn't sliver those almonds myself, mind you, but I picked those up at the store and I went ahead and toasted those. So you want to toast your slivered almonds. And then 1.5 cups of water. I've got the water right there. 1/4 teaspoon of salt. 3/4 of a cup of quinoa. And there you can see from Andean farmers to your table. Right there, organic quinoa. 4 large red, orange, or yellow bell peppers. A teaspoon of olive oil. 1 medium onion, chopped. 2 large cloves of garlic, minced, which I've got right over there. And then we have 1 package of fresh spinach, 1 10-ounce package of fresh spinach. And you want the tough stems removed, torn into large pieces. And I'm actually using baby spinach for this recipe, so that should be fine. You want 1/2 of a cup of feta cheese, which I've got there in the back. 1/4 cup of dried currants or raisins. I've got those over there to the left. 1 can of diced tomatoes right alongside the quinoa. 2 tablespoons of tomato paste right there. And then actually it calls for 1/4 teaspoon of dried Italian dressing. And I've got that right there. So you preheat the oven to 375. Cook the slivered almonds in a small nonstick skillet 3 to 4 minutes. And then put those on a plate to cool. And we're going to start by, in a saucepan, bring the water and the salt to a boil. Place the quinoa in a fine mesh strainer. Rinse under cold running water. Stir into the boiling water. Reduce the heat and cover. And simmer for 20 minutes. So we'll get the quinoa started here first. We're well under our way to quinoa stuffed bell peppers. And I brought a large pot of water to a boil. And it says to put the bell peppers and the tops into the water. Now I seeded those, of course, and removed the ribs. And there they are. Those 4 peppers will sit there for about 5 minutes. And then I'm going to go ahead and drain the water. And just over here, I have the water with the quinoa, the 3/4 of a cup. And that looks like it is just about ready. That has been simmering for quite a while. You just basically need to cook the quinoa, which was 3/4 of a cup, and 1.5 cups of water with a little bit of salt. So I'm going to go ahead and take that off the stove now, and I'll let the peppers boil for 5 minutes before taking those out. So it says to drain those after 5 minutes, and then in the same pot we're going to heat the oil over medium heat and add the onion and cook, stirring occasionally, for 6 minutes. So we'll be right back. The onions are ready to be put into the pot. I drained the water and removed the peppers, and there they are sitting there with the tops. And now I'm going to go ahead and add the onion. This is it's a medium onion. I used a white onion for this. So I'm going to go ahead and add that and cook that for about 6 minutes. So I'm going to do that until 6 minutes or until brown, and then I'll stir in the garlic, and we'll get going here. The onions have been going the better part of 6 minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and add the garlic, and we will mix that in and let that. We're going to let that cook, stir in the garlic, and we're going to remove 2 tablespoons of the onion mixture and set it aside. So we're going to just mix that in a little bit. And then we'll take out 2 tablespoons. It's always challenging to read these recipes, and try to figure out exactly what they mean. But so I'm gonna do that. I would assume then that we're gonna take 2 tablespoons out and set it aside. We'll leave the remaining onion garlic mixture in the pot before we add the spinach. I've added the spinach to the remaining garlic and onion mixture, and it says to add the spinach to the pot and cook, stirring frequently for 5 minutes or until wilted and any water evaporates. So we will do that. Remove the pot from the heat, add the feta, the currant, and the raisins, almonds, and the quinoa to the spinach mixture and stir to combine. So we'll cook this for the better part of 5 minutes, stirring frequently. There would be our wilted spinach with the onion. So now we're going to add the raisins, which was a quarter cup. You could use raisins or currants, and I believe this was 1/3 of a cup of toasted slivered almonds. And we're going to add the feta cheese, and we're also going to add the quinoa. I'll go ahead and mix that all in there first. Boy, that smells really good. So now we'll add the quinoa, the cooked quinoa to the spinach. And there you have it. And we'll just mix all that up real good. And that's going to be our stuffing. Still not quite sure what we're going to be doing with the tomatoes, the diced tomatoes and the tomato paste and the Italian seasoning. Maybe we'll be mixing that in here as well. So I'm going to mix this up and be right back. Will you look at that? Just enough to fill 4 peppers with the quinoa and the spinach mix. So it says to put it in a shallow baking dish and put a 1/2 inch of water on the bottom of the baking dish, and go ahead and put your tops on your peppers as so. Now I don't know if it matters that you put the orange on the orange pepper, the orange top on the orange pepper, and the red on the red pepper or what have you, but I'll go ahead and do that. So there you have that. Now it says to go ahead and cover that loosely with foil and put it in the oven at 375 for about 40 minutes. So we'll go ahead and do that, and then we're going to make the sauce, I guess, that will go on the plate that you put the peppers on. In case you were wondering, like myself, what you were going to do with that 2 tablespoons of onion garlic mixture, you're looking at it. So what you do is you take the can of the diced tomatoes and 2 tablespoons of the tomato paste, 1/4 teaspoon of the zesty Italian dressing mix, and what else? I thought there was something else, but perhaps not. So you take the diced tomatoes, the paste, the seasoning, the Italian seasoning, and the onions. That's it. The onion and the garlic. You're going to bring this to a boil, and then you're going to reduce it to a simmer for about 30 minutes, and that's going to, I believe, be the base for the stuffed quinoa pepper, the quinoa stuffed peppers. It's been the better part of 45 minutes, and it's time to see the fruit of my labor, or maybe the vegetable of my effort. So let's take this out and see what we've got. Oh, it's steaming. I'm going to actually bring this right over to the table here. I'll put there's my carrot cake with the cream cheese frosting that I made at the same time that I was making the stuffed bell peppers. So let's see what we've got here. Here we go. Will you look at that?
Looks kind of like they did when I put them in the oven, to be quite honest with you. But I'm sure they're cooked. So with that said, I'm going to sit down and have myself a nice dinner. I've got the tomato paste. I'll give you a nice shot of the pepper right there. So I have the tomatoes, the tomato sauce that's been on the oven now simmering, and I'm going to put that on a plate and serve myself up a nice bell pepper dinner. Hope you enjoyed the recipe.